I'm Rob Rose. I've been working for Cerner Corporation for a little over the last 18 years. We are a global healthcare IT company, Kansas City based. And it's been an amazing journey, just my career there, because when I started, the company was about 3,000 people, and we're roughly slightly over 28,000 now.
Yeah.
So with that growth and the necessity to solve a lot of these healthcare issues, we've expanded as we've needed, and there have been branches of technologies and opportunities that have been brought in so that teams can solve whatever problem that they need in a timely manner for our customers.
Yeah, and just riffing on that, when we first met, there were some teams there that were trying to say, hey, we'll build a very low-level multi-cloud approach. And your team took a different approach. Do you want to maybe tell folks about how your team thought about the challenges you were facing?
Sure. At the time, we were in this interesting transformation. We had brought Josh Long in, and he gave a talk on Spring Boot, Spring Cloud, and I remember Spring Cloud hadn't even been released yet. And I mean, it was eye-opening because those were the tools that we immediately, my team especially, connected to and said.
I remember you were almost trying to build your own Spring Cloud before.
Exactly, yeah. Internally, we were trying to solve a lot of the same problems.
Yeah.
And when we saw that, it was like, hey, that's a better approach. That's something that we would like to attempt to do, and it seemed to align with all of our goals.
Yeah.
So we started decomposing our monolith into these microservices, and we had a bunch of custom-baked, do-it-yourself automation that we were using to push these massive EAR files to prod.
And I remember the story really well. There was some 36-hour deployment or update where your team kind of tapped out and said, we have to take a different approach. Can you tell the story there real quick?
Yeah. So we actually had a production go live that I knew was going to be a disaster.
Yeah.
I mean, I had warned our operations team going in. I said, guys, this is going to be a bad one.
Yeah.
We were at the bottom of the stack, and we had created such a dependency tree that we knew that if everything didn't go smoothly from the bottom up, it was going to be a long night. It ended up taking 36 hours for this upgrade. And my team met, and we vowed that that could never happen again. I mean,
it was like one of these moments, right?
Yeah. Oh, it was more than a timeout.
If I recall, somebody tapped out after 30 hours and had to call someone else in.
Right. So Brian Kelly on my team.
Yeah.
We were in the first group, and after about 30 hours, we tapped out, and at that time brought in another wave of engineers to kind of finish what we had started, unfortunately.
So in some sense, your cloud and this thesis that we share, which is it was about how hard is continuous delivery, how hard is application delivery, some of these questions. Like, how did Spring Boot and Spring Cloud help you in that?
Well, once we were able to decompose these massive projects, taking upgrades were essentially easier because the parts of the system that we were changing were smaller, so we were reducing the blast radius.
Yeah.
It was a lot easier to test.
Yeah.
So we increased the predictability of everything that we were delivering to our clients at that particular point in time.
Right.
So with the increased testability, again, being able to pipeline smaller pieces, reduce the impact, it completely changed our philosophy, but it created a new problem, and that's always my joke with the team as far as technology goes is it always solves a handful of problems, but it creates new problems.
Right.
And what you're hoping to do is trade in for a smaller set of problems, which we did.
Yeah.
So now, instead of these massive monoliths that we were pushing to production, we had hundreds of microservices.
Yeah.
And that created a new challenge because the automation that we had in place was no longer sufficient. And we were actually investing more time in the custom automation than we were with developing value and delivering to our clients.
I think this is a critical point because this is where the business needs microservices to go fast, and microservices need a platform. And inside that is this thesis that that platform can then be inherently multi-cloud. And so maybe you talk a little bit about using, what you saw with our platform and what that meant once you transitioned to that.
Sure. So where I was saying earlier, there were a bunch of approaches that were being taken. Well, a lot of other teams were coming to that same realization.
Yeah.
But they started with DCOS, and they just wanted to containerize their workloads, and then they started looking for a scheduler.
Yeah.
So you started seeing technologies like Mesosphere pop up, Kubernetes.
Yeah.
We were seeing teams that were directly pushing their workloads into various public cloud offerings. we kind of took a step back, and my team at the time, we were highly involved in the Spring Cloud community within Kansas City, and someone had performed a demonstration with PCF. And again, that was kind of, so there was the Josh Long aha moment, and then there was the presentation of PCF moment where I said, okay, that's a tool that we should investigate a little more to see how they're managing these microservices, because it looked to be a better offering than what was out there.
Right.
And just the general rule of thumb that we have is if you're going to couple, for lack of a better term, but we don't believe that we're doing that, you want to do that as high in the stack as possible. So we were looking at diving into a public cloud directly, and we thought, well, that's a little too low.
Right.
And we were looking at the other opportunities that were out there, and to be frank, I really wasn't interested in the way they were being managed or operated inside of our company, and they looked like a variation of the do-it-yourself automation that we were attempting to do, but we were failing.
They weren't really giving you a business platform.
Correct.
They were a thin shim on top of public cloud, but not really a continuous delivery platform.
Correct. So at that particular point in time, we said, okay, well, let's give it a try.
Yeah.
We were super excited, and so we started a pilot on November 1st of 2016, and the next day, we had already installed PCF, and we had started pushing workloads to AWS.
Yeah.
And we were given a very small quota. And
so basically in one day, you had a platform up on AWS?
Within 24 hours.
Yeah.
We had a platform up in AWS, we were pushing workloads out there, and we were asking to extend our quotas because we were starting to exceed the limit that they had given us in 24 hours.
Yeah.
So it was pretty obvious that we had made a good decision.
So from that early success, how many other clouds were you able to use, and what's that look like? Let's touch that pretty quickly.
So we wanted to take this on the road, for lack of a better term, inside the company to say, hey, I think we found something that is going to provide value for other teams. We were already pushing workloads out to vSphere on-prem, OpenStack on-prem, and then, as I mentioned, AWS.
Yeah.
And now we actually have vSphere. We no longer use OpenStack for our PCF workloads, but we have vSphere on-prem, we have Azure, and AWS as well.
And the developer experience across all of those clouds is really similar or identical, really.
Yep. We just create a different pipeline. At this point, our pipelines are per basically solution, per foundation, per IaaS. So depending on, if you can track that matrices there, that's kind of how each pipeline looks for each solution.
So that's what went well, but you're a senior leader there. You're overcoming challenges too, right? Like this is not push button, IT is easy, we all go to the lake. What are some of the challenges around standardization across a big, diverse developer team?
So that has been one of the biggest challenges. At this point, we feel pretty confident with the tech that we've chosen.
Right.
But now we have somewhat of a people problem. When we started, it was late 2016. Well, now you have other groups that have invested 2 to 3 years in whatever approach that they're using.
Right.
And they know the same challenges with switching tech is there's some sort of cost, regardless of if it's a better decision or not. They're going to get taxed some way.
Yeah.
So I think right now our challenge is the juice worth the squeeze?
Yeah.
And trying to show the value that we've received and whether or not this approach can accelerate to production.
Yeah.
But that has been our biggest challenge, more so than actually making the decision to use PCF or to use Spring Boot or to use Spring Cloud. It is working with other them to say, hey, we think we've got a better approach. We've tried your way. Please come and try our way and see what you think. Give us the feedback.
I think that's a good packaging from your experience, Rob, of the overall milieu we're operating in, which is like if with zero standardization and you need to use any new public cloud, anything that happens the second it comes out, it's very hard to imagine a multi-cloud platform. But if you have some focus as a business on we're about continuous delivery, we're about software architecture, teams around some higher level standards, multi-cloud almost becomes a trivial byproduct of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And working with with your group, we've been able to do some pretty cool stuff around value stream mapping that has assisted with that to say, hey, before it took us as long to procure hardware, start a new solution, get the MVP of that solution developed, and then push that workload into production.
And I think that's that ITIL to continuous delivery change, the procurement of that. Maybe one last question, we'll close on this.
Sure.
Have you seen security benefits from this idea of having a multi-cloud platform?
So absolutely. I think one of the coolest things that my team has done, and I have a senior technical lead that has done multiple presentations out there about this. I think it's been at the last 2 or 3 Spring One conferences. We decided to pipeline the platform similarly to the way we pipeline our solutions. And what's cool about that is we're constantly taking the upgrades and updates in the solution so that we're on the latest version of MySQL, of Redis, of PCF as a whole. But you guys also deliver stem cell packages to mitigate...
Operating system. That's operating system updates.
Oh, sorry. to mitigate CVEs. And because those are pipelined, it's roughly, I mean, you guys have a really good cadence. It's almost a weekly cadence. We have automation that looks at the update on PivNet. It downloads it, puts it in an S3 bucket or whatever type of storage that we'd like, and then we start pipelining that through our environments. So right now, we repave our environments weekly. And it's something like 80% of our VMs have a life of less than 7 days. And with the primary security threat being a persistent threat, we're not giving...
Time to live is not really there.
The time to live isn't there. Within 7 days, we're working with a brand new environment.
I think this is really important what you've shared with the audience today, Rob. I think that continuous delivery for developers enabled the ability to go multi-cloud, and that also having that multi-cloud platform and a focus on automation also unleashed a new level of security that you hadn't had before. And that's where I think all of these leaders in the audience can take away. Like, if I focus on pervasive automation first, as opposed to going deep on every cloud, I think it's a new world.
I completely agree. And with that automation, you start to recognize patterns. So you start to see things, as I mentioned before, where pipelining and deconstructing your solutions, and you can almost replay that and reuse that concept with the platform, with other aspects of just delivering solutions in general. You start to look at things at more of a micro level, breaking them down into smaller problems. Because all big problems are just a collection of smaller problems. You learn and...
Great saying.
Did I steal that from you? I'm sorry.
No, I am going to steal it from you, though.
But all you do is you learn to basically break these larger, complex problems down into smaller problems, and then iterate and deliver over those. And you start to see that your time to value increases significantly.
I think that's an inspirational story here for the multi-cloud. If anyone doubts multi-cloud can be done, Rob's been a great leader in this space, has delivered outstanding business results for his company and for his end users ultimately. So maybe a round of applause for Rob and him coming in to share this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks.